I came upon, Baruch Hashem, a book called The Garden of Peace, which is really the best book written for men on marriage. A lot of reasons why marriages have friction is because the couples aren't guided, they don't have the right knowledge about how to conduct a marriage. So it is the hope of this event and many future events that we hope to do is to educate people on just how to make it work. And I really believe that everybody can make an amazing marriage. And out of this amazing marriage, really, really be very happy. And could have a lot more success, materially, spiritually, children that are much happier, blossom into amazing human beings, and just bring happiness to the whole world. This is what really brings Mashiach. And so I want to just thank a few people, and then allow the next speaker to come up. I want to thank my collaborator, Rabbi David Lolayan, who has enabled me to do this event. The best Rav in LA. I'm biased, but I just love the guy. And I want to thank also the person who was the inspiration for this whole evening, my wife, of course, Sarah. And so, if you haven't been a part of the Shabbaton, tomorrow there's an exciting workshop for men, which starts at 10 a.m. at Echal Moshe, where Rabbi Lolayan's shul is, and it starts at 10 and goes on till approximately 2. And at the same time, there's also a singles workshop for men and women. They'll be separate. Singles workshop as well from 10 to 2. And for those that are interested in coming to the prayer before, it starts at 9 a.m. And without further ado, I want to introduce the head of programming for Breslov Israel. But before I do, I also want to thank the entire staff, beginning with Rabbi Yosef Nechama, who has single-handedly created this entire organization with Rabbi Shalom from the very start. And he deserves a lot of merit. He travels around the world, selflessly giving to the entire world, and without him, none of this would have been here. And of course, I want to thank Rabbi David Reckless, who's now going to speak. Thank you very much.
Good evening to the Valley. This is considered the Valley, right? Yeah. Happy to be here. So I'm part of the Men in Black group. We all have hats, but we don't wear them, but we all kind of look like that. We're going through the airport. Thank you, Ariel, for this, all your time and dedication. You can imagine how much time and effort it takes to put something like this together. He's been working on it for a long time, so thank you so much. And thank you to his wife, Sarah, for giving us so much of his time, because it takes away, obviously, from the family time as well. Okay, so this evening, it is, so what Ariel said, we have a Shabbaton about marriage. Tonight's topic's a little bit broader, so certainly, absolutely, you should use it to empower your marriage. But you can use tonight's talk for any relationship you have, loved one, a neighbor, a business associate. There's a famous saying by Rabbi Yonatan of Breslov, and it goes like this. Now, I'll ask you a question first before I tell you the saying. With a show of hands, don't be shy, who here believes, and I'll participate with you, that you could absolutely destroy a relationship? I know I can. I've done it many times. Okay. So, I see a few hands there. The question becomes, who thinks they could absolutely fix that relationship? So, a little bit less hands there. And so, Rabbi Nachman says, if you believe you can destroy, believe you can fix. You have the power to destroy something, and you have the problem to fix it as well. And that really is the topic here. We want you to walk away with tangible things you can do, a few different things you can do based on that relationship that could be better. Whether it's really not in existence anymore due to what happened, no matter whose fault it was. It doesn't really matter if the relationship's not in shape. If someone doesn't come together, it's not gonna come back. Or a relationship is okay, but it could be better. You want it to be better. So we're really looking at tangible steps, tangible tactics you can take. Rabbi Yonatan Galet is going to speak first. If you don't know Rabbi Yonatan, he's been with Rabbi Shalom for more than 10 years. For the last 10 plus years, he's been the Spanish voice of Rabbi Shalom. Tonight he's going to be the English voice as well. But when he's up here speaking, you're hearing Rabbi Shalom's Torah. He's been with them for a lot longer than that period of time, and he travels around the world. He speaks to the Spanish audience all over the world. He actually doesn't speak that much English, but when we heard him speak English, we grabbed him and we threw him in a suitcase, and here he is. He's going to speak for the first few minutes and give us over some of Rabbi Shalom's Torah. And after that's going to be Rabbi Lazer Brody. If you don't know who Rabbi Lazer Brody is, he has been at the side of Rabbi Arush for close to 20 years. He's translated more books than I can count in my head. All the CDs out there that you hear in English, that's all Rabbi Brody speaking. But again, it's going to look like Rabbi Brody's up here, but it's really Rabbi Shalom Arush who's speaking to you in English. It's a great treat to have both of them here speaking. And I'm going to start out telling you a little bit of a story. I'll tell you a story that I hope that you listen to this story. It's a true story. It was told over by Rabbi Ephraim Waxman. And I think this story, if you listen to it, let it soak in a little bit, it'll open you up for what's going to follow. And again, how you can leave here and not just say, wow, that was a great Torah lecture, but wow, I have some things I can use now to go fix some of these relationships. So within the last few years, there's a gentleman, we'll call him Joe, and he came to make a little celebration for finishing part of the Gemara, part of the Talmud. He went from New York, he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael to make this siyum, this small celebration. And after he finished the end of this tractate, the end of this part of the Gemara, he got up and spoke. Rabbi Ephraim Waxman was there and told the story over. And Joe was in his 60s, and he told the story. He said, 40 years ago, I had a very life-changing situation happen to me in New York. He says he's the son of Holocaust survivors. So he was born after the war, after his parents went to the U.S. And besides Brit Milah, nothing else Jewish existed for him. There was no Shabbat, there was no Rosh Hashanah, there was no Pesach, there was no Jewish school, there was no Hanukkah, nothing. You can understand, looking back at the people that had gone through that experience, it's understandable. And without any of those tenets of Judaism, nothing in the house, he grew up without any understanding of Judaism or any relation to it. So by the time he finished high school in a public school system, he connected with a few people that weren't so scrupulous, his business partners, and they were off to the races and they were making a lot of money. Now they weren't killing anybody, but what they were doing wasn't legal. But they were making a lot of money and they were keeping to it. One day, in his early 20s, he met with his business partners and another group to go ahead and conduct a business deal, and they walked into a restaurant to finalize the deal. They walked out in handcuffs. It was a sting operation. The FBI had everything on tape over the last few weeks. They had pictures. These guys are looking at some serious time. They're looking at 25 years. Now, they all made bail because they had a lot of money, and the case was going to be in a few weeks in court. One of the partners disappeared and was never seen or heard from again. The other one turned state's evidence, which means he gave as much information as he could about the partners. And our friend Joe was left holding the bag. He was looking at least 25 years and in a pretty bad shape. So he got the name of the best attorney in Manhattan. He went to him and laid it out for him. The attorney said, listen, I am one of the top attorneys in Manhattan, but I'm not a miracle worker. I mean, they have wiretaps. They have you speaking. They have your partner speaking. They have pictures. I can try to help you and possibly reduce the sentence, but no jail time, not likely. But I'll do the best I can do. He didn't have a better option, so he paid back then even tens of thousands of dollars and waiting for the case. The next day, he's in Lower Manhattan and he's walking around aimlessly, distraught. He's thinking in his early 20s, even if he gets 10 or 15 years and gets lucky, wow, what did he do to his life? What's become? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen after that? Can he survive that? He walks into a diner to order some food. He sits down in the booth and he just starts to cry uncontrollably. He has no idea what his life is in front of him and he's very scared. Meanwhile, another gentleman's walking past the window and sees this. He walks in, he sits down, he looks right at Joe and says, what's the problem? Now Joe looks back at him angrily. It's New York. He says, what's the problem? What do you know about problems? And the gentleman rolled up his sleeve and showed him a long number. He says, I know a lot about problems. Maybe I can help you. He took a step back. He said, my parents were also in the Holocaust and I'm Jewish. And he told him the entire story, top to bottom. And the man looked at him and said, you don't need a lawyer. You need a rabbi. Let's go. And he took him to a very, very holy, famous rabbi, the Scolia rabbi, up in upstate New York, and he met with him. And the Scolia rabbi heard the whole story. He gave him a bracha. He said, you're not going to do jail time. You're not going to go to jail. You're going to go to the court case, and it's going to work out for you. And then when you're done, you're going to come back and you're going to see me. He says, oh, by the way, when he's walking out, your lawyer's going to come late, but don't worry, it's all going to work out for the best. So he feels good. It's a glimmer of hope. He's feeling pretty good. Okay, maybe this is going to work out. I got this bracha from this rabbi. Okay, you want something to rest on. But then reality sets in. A week later, he walks into court at 9 a.m. Who's sitting in the front row? All the FBI guys that set him up in their, in their nice suits. All the guys he thought he was doing the deal with, they're all right there. And his heart sank. He's like, oh man, not a good situation. But sure enough, the Rabbi was right. The lawyer doesn't show up. It's 9:10, 9:15, 9:25. He's waiting. The court's getting fidgety. A phone call to the court. Someone comes and speaks to the judge. Judge says, listen, your attorney called. He missed his flight. He's not going to make it. He's sending somebody else. This guy Joe's like, are you kidding me? Looking at 25 years. I just spent all this money, and now he's not even coming. Wow. So they're sitting there. The court's getting a little, fidgety, waiting. All of a sudden, 10 o'clock, the doors open up, and the guy walks in and says, I'm here, I'm the replacement. 21-year-old rookie lawyer walks in. Joe can't believe it. He's like, oh my God, what did they send me? I can't, they said, a high school kid, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like, how do you do it? You walked in the door, he couldn't believe it. Guy walks up, don't worry, I got this covered, everything's good. He sits down next to him, what's he gonna do? Prosecution gets up there, and they state their whole case. And they're playing their wiretaps, and they're showing their photos, and they make their case. And now it's time for this attorney to get up. And for the first 5 minutes, he sounds great. He's making a great case. He's talking very authoritatively. And then for the next hour, he goes off on some tangent that nobody, including Joe, understands what he's saying. It makes absolutely no sense. And Joe is flotsing in the seat. He's like, oh my God, this is going to be worse than 25 years. This is going to be absolutely horrible. And after an hour, he stops. And the judge looks. He says to the prosecution, it's obvious you don't have a case here. This isn't strong enough evidence. Case dismissed, no jail time. Joe cannot believe it. Unbelievable. He can't believe it. He has no idea what he just said to him for the last hour, and now all of a sudden he's free. Unbelievable. So he goes over to the attorney. Wow, thank you so much. What did you do? I don't even understand what happened here. He says, I'll be honest with you. It was my first case. But the judge is my grandfather. Now, it's a true story. It's a true story. There's two kinds of stories. Stories that might happen and stories that did happen. I guess without social media back in the early 70s and a lot of TV, that was okay. But again, Joe walked into a situation that looked absolutely hopeless, and with Hashem's help, he came out of it unscathed. Now, he returned to the Scholar Rabbi, and obviously things changed because there he is, 40 years later, making a celebration in B'nai Brak, finishing a tractate of the Talmud. But anything is possible here. There's nothing that Hashem can't do. Keep an open mind. Walk away with the thing that these two rabbis are going to tell you. And B'ezrat Hashem, any relationship that you can fix, or any relationship that could be better, can be much better. Without further ado, Rabbi Yonatan, God led him.
Shalom everyone. Shalom a todos. That's Spanish if you don't know. I'm going to speak in English. Not Hashem, let's see how it works out. Very happy to be in the valley. Baruch Hashem. So every time I start talking about something, I start off with a joke. So you ready? It's a very important joke because it's going to lead us to what we're going to talk about. So there was these two guys going from door to door, and they were making what is called a census. You know what a census is? You ask questions, how many people live here, how old they are, their names. Census. That makes sense. So they went from door to door, and then they reached a house, the Eden family. The Eden family, good. They knocked on the door, this nice person opened the door, and they said, we can ask you a few questions. Sure, why not? They asked him, you married? Married. Okay, what's your name? My name is Adam. And your wife? Eve. Eve, okay. Any children? He said, yeah, these twins fighting all the time, Cain and Abel, I don't know what to do. So one guy says to the other, probably the serpent lives here too, right? I said, sure. Mother-in-law, there's something for you. So, we're not going to talk about mother-in-laws. I see some in the audience, a sore face. You can't complain because every mother-in-law has mother-in-law. So you can laugh, be relaxed. Mine is very, very far away. She doesn't speak English, so I'm protected. Everything's good. We relax. So we mentioned the serpent. Let's talk a little bit about the serpent. The original one, the biblical one, the serpent. What happened exactly there? Adam and Eve, the real ones. What happened in there with the serpent? What did the serpent introduce in mankind? Let's check the verses. 2 verses. We see after the sin, after they ate from the fruit, forbidden fruit, so there comes a punishment, which is actually a correction, because in Judaism there's no such thing as punishment. There's a correction of something that is bad to bring you back to the normal state. So, what do we see there? I'm going to say the verse in Hebrew and then we'll translate it. About the woman is written, Be'etzev tildi banim. It's written that the wife, the woman, will have birth with sorrow. Translation says sorrow, right? With anguish. She's going to suffer, in other words. But the truth is that the translation is not good. Because the word etzev is actually sadness. Etzev is sadness. It's translated in all the Torah that you will find translation to English, to Spanish, doesn't matter. It's translated as pain. Because of course, if you have pain, so you're sad. So it makes sense. But the real word is etzev, which is sadness. After we see the punishment or the correction of Adam, what it says there? It says, Be'itzavon tochalena. It's talking about that he will have to work very, very hard to get the fruit, the vegetables out of the soil, and he's going to do it with a lot of effort. Again, the word is itzavon, just like etzev. Itzavon is sadness. With sadness, you will eat from the fruit of the soil. So we see that the punishment is actually what? Being sad. That's exactly what the serpent introduced in mankind. Sadness. The natural state of a person is sadness. He's drawn to sadness. That's our reality. And that explains us also why the theme of this trip of ours is starting over. Now we can understand why a person needs to start over, because something went wrong, and we want to understand exactly what went wrong. With this, we start to understand the sadness is this venom, is this thing that takes us to failure. So that's what we need to understand, how to avoid it, and how we can fix after failing. So for that, I would like to share with you a real story. We're talking about stories here, we're having fun. This is a real story you have to hear. There's dryness in the valley, right? All the time I'm thirsty. Sorry guys. I did the blessing before. Don't suspect me. Anyway, so once upon a time, there was this king, or this emperor, or Caesar, dictator. I practiced all this word. Tyrant. Yeah, let's say a Caesar. An evil Caesar, really a bad guy. He looked like Captain Hook. You know Captain Hook? You know him? So this was the Caesar Hook. It was his twin brother. He had a glass eye. Yeah, that's one. In the palm of his right hand, there was a hook. Yeah, and a wooden leg, a baseball bat instead of a leg. And he had also a horrible scar on one of his cheeks. Okay? Very nice person. So you understand that his appearance wasn't too aesthetic, yeah? And okay, that can happen, but there was a problem. The Caesar, this emperor, decided he wants a portrait. He wants someone to paint him and put in a huge painting in his palace, just like his ancestors. So now, that's a hard job to paint something like that. But he said, and it was done. They searched for the most professional painter in the kingdom. They looked everywhere. And professional painters are usually French. So they found a French one, Jean-Claude Sissi. Jean-Claude Sissi was an amazing painter, really. They brought him to the palace, and they told him his mission. He was shocked. He didn't know how to reach that, how to start. That was horrible. How can he paint that? But he was a pro. And pros do what they need to do. He took the brushes, and started working. Started painting everything very, very accurate, with the colors and the light and everything. And voila! Needs to be like, voila! So the painting to the Caesar, and the Caesar was so angry. What's that aim? Are you mocking me? Off with his head.
What?
Yes, I know it's shocking. They cut his head of ISIS style. Terrible. Terrible. Who wants to say Kaddish after the lecture? Anyway, he was dead. Now, it was the talk of the day in the kingdom. Everybody talked about it. Junity, the famous picture, in 2 parts. It went viral all over the place. People were talking about this. But they knew the emperor, he wants his painting. He's going to get it. So all the painters ran away, started hiding. So they found one in a cave. His name was Julien Jojo. He was also French. French people, they know to paint. And they have a mustache. Anyway, they brought him to the emperor, and they told him what he had to do. Now, he heard what happened to the first painter, and he was really scared. He was really scared what I'm going to do. The first painter, my colleague, was a pro. He did a huge, amazing work. What am I going to do? He thought and thought. He said, we're in modern days. There's Photoshop in the world. I'm going to fix him. I do a little bit of Photoshop work there. I'm going to change here and there. Maybe I make him blonde. And started working on it. And there it was. Voila, Brad Pitt. Amazing picture, Hollywood style. Please, Emperor, I'm ready. The Emperor arrived, reached the painting. He was, what is this? It's worse than before. Off with his head.
Right.
Yes, I see. It got dull, it got... And the Emperor still wants his painting. What are we going to do? Now that the painters tried to hide, went to the forest, but they found another one. Francois de la Manche, a great painter. They brought him to the palace, and he was in big problems. Big trouble now. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? The first one did an accurate job. He's in 2 parts. The second one, all the fixing possible, is also double. What am I going to do? Everybody lost their head. Started to have a headache. Probably that's normal. What am I going to do? So he heard Rabbi Lazer's CDs and decided to do it what they do. And then he prayed to Hashem, help me, I don't know what to do, I need help. And then there was a heavenly sound, and he had an idea. Wow, I know what to do. And he started painting something completely different. He started painting beautiful sky, blue sky, and green grass, and a few sheep, and white clouds, and an amazing bird with a golden feather in the sky. And then he started painting a horse. What is he doing? Painting a horse, a really royal horse. And then he started painting a hunter. This hunter had a royal cape, the cape of the emperor. It was actually the emperor as a hunter. He started painting, and what he did, the wooden leg, the baseball bat, was covered with the body of the horse, so you couldn't see it. Okay? Now, what with the horrible scar? The rifle's butt was hiding that horrible scar, so you couldn't see because he was aiming at the bird. Now, when you aim at something, you need to close your eye. So he was closing his glass eye. And who was holding the rifle, so he couldn't see it. And the painting was ready. Please, Emperor. Voila. The Emperor came. This is me! That's exactly me! At the end, I have my picture, I have my painting! And he gave him gold and diamonds and made him the prime minister and gave him his daughter that looks just like her father. It was so beautiful. Everything was amazing. There's a great message here. A great message for all of us. What did happen here? The first painter, let's see what he did. The first painter, what did he do? He painted accurately. He showed everything. The good things and the defects. The emperor didn't like that. So it failed. The second one, what he did? He lied. He changed everything. This wasn't true. So he lost his head. The third one, what did the third one do? He did what Rabbi Nachman of Breslev says. He did exactly this. Rabbi Nachman of Breslev says you need to look for the good points in everybody. You need to look for the good. You need to bring forward the good things, and you need to emphasize on that. Focus on the good, not on the bad. So what he did, he drew the emperor with everything, but you couldn't see the defects, because the beautiful qualities of the emperor, like his hunting skills, they were forward. It was focused on that. And this is something we need to do in everything in life, in our relationship, in our work, in everything. Also with ourselves. For example, with the children. You want your child to arrange his room. Everything, what we call in Hebrew, balagan. Everything is a mess. His room is a mess. So you tell him 1 time, 2 times. At the end, he starts arranging the room. After half an hour, you go to check the room. Everything's arranged. But there's this little yellow thing, this toy, how you call it? It's today, Minions. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like Bart Simpson with 1 eye, you know? By the way, Bart Simpson converted to Judaism, now he's like Baruch Shimshon. Anyway, so this little Bart Simpson with 1 eye is in the middle there. All the room is arranged, and that Bart Simpson is there, and you're like, well, I told you to arrange your room, look what's going on. One little Bart Simpson, Minion, what's the problem? No, you spot, because that's your nature. That's a serpent bite, you spot what is wrong. The same with your wife. She asks you, I got fat lately, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, you're huge. No, you can't say that. That's like the first painter. You can't tell her that. Also, you can't lie. You can't tell her you look like a broomstick. She knows that's lying. You can tell her you're amazing the way you are. If you feel uncomfortable, we can go jogging, have time together. That's nice. That's nice. Help her. But not that way. Same with the husband. Relax. So, we like to eat. Anyway, that's what we need to do. Focus on the good things. And that's the secret to success. And not only on others, also with ourselves. With ourselves, we all the time blame ourselves. We chase ourselves. I didn't do this right. I need to do this right. Like this. I'm like that. Why I'm like this? All the time fighting with ourselves. We're crazy. Fighting with ourselves. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and that. You can drive yourself crazy. With blames, that's not what Hashem wants. Hashem wants you to focus on your good. When you focus on the good, you actually illuminate all the other things. They start to disappear, like in the third painting. When you focus on the good, so that light shines on everything. And it fixes everything. Your relationship, your children, yourself. And that's the secret to start over, to do a new beginning. And just to conclude, let's remind ourselves something with one of the giants of Israel, which is Rabbi Akiva. Everybody knows Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Akiva, you know the story, not going to tell the entire story. From a very simple peasant that hated Talmidei Chachamim, hated the sages, he became Rabbi Akiva. He sacrificed his life to learn Torah. His wife sacrificed her life so he can learn Torah. And he came back home with 24,000 students. 24,000 students! But they all died in about 30 days. In a plague that happened because of the reason that it happened. You can read about it, Sfirat HaOmer. In a little bit more than 30 days, 33 days, they were all dead. 24,000 students! What a normal person would do, will take a Valium, go into bed and say, I'm going to sleep a little bit now for like 200 years. I'm just going to have a little nap for 1,000 years. That's normal. That's a normal thing to do. No. The Gemara tells us he went to the south and started over. And had 5 new students. 5 new students. What's 5 new students 24,000. Really, go to sleep, that's better. No, 5 new students. And you know who those students were? Just mentioning 2 of them. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai,
Yes.
Rabbi Meir Bar Anes. Just 2 of them. All of them holy and tzaddikim. All the Torah that we have today, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Meir. Wow, wow. He started over. He saved us with him carrying on and believing in this secret that if you believe you can ruin, believe also that you can fix. And that's the secret of Rabbi Nachman when he's saying this. He's saying, you know, you have a natural trait, you have this natural urge to see the bad. No problem. Why didn't Rabbi Nachman say, believe you can fix? That's enough. Believe you can fix. No, he says, if you believe you can ruin, believe you can rectify. Just say, believe you can rectify. That's enough. You don't need too much ink, right? No, he says, if you believe you can ruin, believe you can fix. Because we believe we can ruin. That's so natural for us. So, in the same amount of importance you give the bad, start working on giving the same amount. I don't tell you more. The same amount, at least, to seeing the good. Work on it. Find the positive points in yourself, in others. You will have a beautiful, amazing life. You will have success. You will have everything you need. Because this is the right way. This is the way Hashem wants us to live. This is the right way. And that's exactly what we're doing here today. We came to learn that. And we're going to give now the honor to Rabbi Lazer Brody to teach us how to do it. So, without further ado, please.
Drop this a little bit. With Hashem's loving grace, I thank Hashem for the privilege of being here in the valley with our beloved friends, beloved brothers and sisters here in the valley. Zat Hashem. What Rabbi Yonatan was speaking about, you can find in Likutei Moharan, Rabbi Nachman's famous book, the second part, Discourse 112. We make a song about it. We sing it all the time. Every little kid breastfeeds me. Matam ma'amin she'efshar letaken ta'amin ta'amin she'efshar letaken. If you believe that you can ruin, believe that you can fix. Matam ma'amin she'efshar lekalkel ta'amin she'efshar letaken. Rabbi David told the story. He said there's some stories that could happen and some stories that did happen. I'm going to tell you a story that did happen. It's a real story, and by now, everybody knows, everybody at least in Breslin knows this story, and people outside know the story, but they don't know exactly where it came from. This year, in Rosh Hashanah, Uman, Ben Poat Yosef, there were 60,000 people. And it's been going up very much. 18 years ago, in 1998, there weren't so many people in Rosh Hashanah. There were, 1998, maybe there was 8,000, 9,000. It was already getting big, and they built a new mikveh that today looks like it's tiny. But they built a new mikveh, and it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. It was 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning, people had were at the mikveh, the slichot were 3:20. Most of the mikveh got crowded at 3 o'clock. But 2:20, 2:30, I figured I'd get up early and went to the mikveh. And I was in the mikveh, and it was already very big. There was only 2 other people there. There was one young man, where Rabbi Nachman, he attracts people from all over the world. One young man who was born in Tel Aviv, and he grew up in a kind of funky Tel Aviv society that imitates Greenwich Village in New York or somewhere in San Francisco. And when he was growing up in high school, his hair was painted purple, and then he had tattoos covered. Yonatan was talking about French artists. He had this it's like San Francisco artists. His body was a whole thing of art from head to toe. And he went head to toe, and he goes in the mikvah. And there was one other guy in the mikvah, an older Jew from Mea Shearim, with long peyot and long beard. And they didn't know. And there was Lazer, that was on the side, getting this, and here, these 2 guys in the mikvah.
So I hear a conversation, I'm getting addressed, to go at the mikvah, and they don't know I'm there, and they're talking between them. And the older man from Mea Sharim, the chassid, he looks at this guy. He says, "You're not embarrassed to come here? Don't you know where you are? This is the holy gravesite of Rabbi Nachman. This is his mikvah. They built it. It's just like his own mikvah. It's right near his holy gravesite. You know what happened here? 33,000 people, 33,000 Jews, they died in sanctification of Hashem's name. They refused to bow down to the cross that the Goyim put there. And the Cossacks killed them all. And here you come. Don't you know that a tattoo, Isu Deoraita, and you're not embarrassed to come in and this brand new mikveh, Rabbi Nachman's mikveh, you contaminate with this body with a tattoo? The guy's got a tear. He said, wait a second, I made sure, and I made this trip with money I didn't have to come from Tel Aviv to Kiev and Kiev to Uman. So some guy from Yerushalayim should tell me how crazy I am or how filthy I am. I know I feel filthy, but that's why I come to Rabbi Nachman, because Rabbi Nachman made this promise. If Shaul guy's got tears in his eyes. Rabbi Nachman promised that if I can ruin, then I can rectify, so I come. And he said to the guy, he said, excuse me, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I've been to a lot of plastic surgeons in Tel Aviv. And you see this? He shows him his thigh. It's scraped. You see his arms, it's scraped. I've tried skin grafts. Do you know how painful that is? I almost died of one. And when I tried to cover it, his arm was scarred, and his leg was scarred. They tried to make a skin graft to take off his leg and to put on his arm. It didn't succeed. And the doctor says, you know something? He says, I'm not religious, but I'm Jewish. And Hashem will take you like you are. Hashem will take you like you are. The guy wasn't satisfied with that answer. He says, go somewhere else. Rabbi Nachman's mikveh? You want to immerse in Rabbi Nachman's mikveh? He says, I don't want to immerse in Rabbi Nachman's mikveh because Rabbi Nachman says it's Hashem's mikveh. What are you doing here? He says, I want to show Hashem. I want to show everything that they all look in the heavenly court where Rabbi Nachman and where Hashem took me out of. That's what I want to show. When the guy from Yerushalayim, he leaves, the guy's got tears in his eyes, and he goes to the mikveh. And before I got to the mikveh, somebody else came to the mikveh. And he said to the young man, an older man, didn't know where he was, maybe on the side, in a different dressing room. And he goes to the young man, and he says, hey, young man, you there with the tattoos? I got a tattoo also. And he takes off his bathrobe and he says, look at my tattoo. And he's got 7 numbers on his arm. And he says, I also want to show the heavenly court where Hashem and Rabbi Nachman took me out of. There's a person in here that hasn't ruined a relationship. Maybe it was a job. Maybe it was a person, maybe it was a spouse, maybe it was your boss, maybe it was your child, and you said something or you did something that you really regretted. And you say, wow, if I could only turn back the clock. This guy with his tattoos on the body, don't you think when he made Shuvah, when he was a hippie in Tel Aviv, and what we call a punkist, a punky guy. And now that he knows, he didn't grow up and his father was father of the Rosh Hashiva and his mother was the head of the sisterhood. He didn't grow up. He didn't know if it says in the Torah that you can't eat shrimp and pork and have tattoos on your body. Now that he knows, don't you think that he has regret? Don't you think that he wants to look like everyone else? But it's already been done. How do you correct the damage? The word has left your mouth. It's already been done. You've already broken your spouse's heart. Your spouse says, I can't continue in this marriage one more day. Your boss says, you're finished, pal. You lost a customer with what you said. You're finished. Your child, they slammed the door. I'm never coming back. I don't want a mother like you. I don't want a father like you. How do you correct? Now what do? The tattoo is already there, but just remember, if you play your cards right, and you believe that you can rectify, then you can show where Hashem took you from also. Before I tell you exactly how to rectify, this is not pie in the sky. It's not theoretical. We are going to learn now, tonight, and we're not going to go home. In the next 38 minutes, we're going to learn exactly how to fix every single situation. But I'm going to tell you a situation where a young lady's heart was broken. Young lady's heart broke. You have to understand one thing. All children, all of humanity, they're sons and daughters of Hashem. And even though Jews have 613 mitzvot, and our non-Jewish friends have 7 mitzvot, we all have emunah, and we're all required to believe in Hashem. And that's why the Lubavitcher Rebbe and Rabbi Nachman, 2 big tzaddikim today, and their students, Chabad, the Noahide mitzvot, the Rebbe said it's a mitzvah to teach this all over, and rest where we get it in a Masorah. Rabbi Nachman wrote it down. Well, all of humanity has to call Hashem's name. We say this in Aleinu. All of living flesh will call your name. How is all of living flesh going to call Hashem's name if we don't teach them? This is our job to teach them. And this is the chazon. This is the vision of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this is the vision of Rabbi Nachman. That the way we bring peace and unity on earth, we teach all of living flesh to call Hashem's name. Okay. Our very good friend, true story, and check it out. Our very good friend in Cleveland, the rabbi of Eshet Torah in Cleveland, is named Rabbi Chaim Feld. Rabbi Chaim Feld teaches in Case Reserve University, Case Western, how's it called? Western Reserve or Case Reserve? Okay, something with Zervin. It's a university, well-known university in Cleveland. He teaches a course there in Jewish awareness. And kids sign up for the course. It's a 3-credit course. And some are Jews, some are not. Most of them are Jews. And most of the Jews that come from homes that they never knew anything about Jewish. Okay, so no, I'm born in Jewish parents. Learned something about Jewish awareness. So it's the first day of a brand new semester. And the kids come in there. And Rabbi Chaim is attached very close to us. And he teaches the Emunah books. And he asks a question to the students of the first day of the fall semester. And he says, does anybody here know what the word emunah means? Nobody raised their hand. One kid in the back row raised his hand. He says, yeah, I know what the word emunah means. He says, what does the word emunah mean? He says, it's a pure and simple belief in God, in Hashem. He says, beautiful answer. He said, did you read the Guard of Emunah? He said, no, I didn't read the Guard of Emunah. He said, where'd you know this answer from? He says, Rabbi, you're not going to believe. He said, well, this is the first day of the situation. He tells a story. He says, last year, in spring semester, the beginning of spring semester, there was a break, and they have the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And I remember when I was a student at University of Maryland, that you'd go with a couple of guys, go down to Mardi Gras. It's a big festival, like they have in Rio de Janeiro. You don't have to go to Rio de Janeiro. You have it in New Orleans. Okay, it's a great big festival. And you walk down the street, you drink these great big hurricanes, and you buy in here, and you hear the greatest jazz in the world. It's all a good time, fun time. Baruch Hashem. So they were on the way from Cleveland, Ohio, to New Orleans, and they're going down the road from Cleveland to Kentucky to Tennessee. Tennessee, they go to Alabama. Alabama, cross over to Mississippi, and then right to Louisiana. So they were in Alabama. And they decided, if they're thirsty, they're going to stop by a bar, get a beer, take a little break. So they go in this tavern. And the waitress says, yeah, hey fellas, what would you like to drink? They said, well, you could bring 3 Budweisers would be nice. Okay, that's fine. And she comes with a tray with the 3 schooners of Budweiser on the tap. And she serves them. And she's got a short sleeve shirt. Hey, look. And she's got this tattoo on her arm. And the tattoo in really nice red, white, and blue letters says E-M-U-N-A. Emunah. They're down here in a town called Utah, Alabama, right across the Tennessee border. And she served his beers. And this young lady, she got this guy. He says, what's that? She looks at it. And she says, is that a Star of David you're wearing? He says, yeah. He says, you're Jewish? He says, yeah. You don't know what this means? You don't know what this means? And she says, this is emunah. Emunah. It means that you believe in God. You have a pure and simple belief in God. So he says, yeah, young lady, but what's that doing on your arm? He says, well, I got a story. Now we have another story within a story. Says, I had a boyfriend, and his name was Billy Joe. And Billy Joe drove this big, long, white Cadillac, and Billy Joe promised that he's going to marry me. And I said, well, Billy Joe, where'd you get that big old Cadillac? He says, you don't know? He says, I'm a graduate of Emory, honors graduate, Emory in Atlanta. He says, I'm a lawyer. I've got law practice in Atlanta. I've got an office in Miami. I've got an office in Dallas, Texas. I'm an interstate lawyer. He says, that's why I go back and forth between the states. But yeah, I said, sure. And he says, Emily Lou, I'm going to marry you, and I'm going to build you a big old white house up on the hill. You're not going to be serving beer. You're going to have 3 servants serving you. How do you like that? Okay, she's looking now. Well, Billy Joe's going to marry her. She's not going to be working in, it's not nice working in a tavern. Not everybody's polite. People say stuff to her. Some people, they say things with their fingers, and then not only with their mouths. And it's not nice going through work and being pinched and being here, being there. And she's looking forward to a life where she doesn't have to serve beer in a tavern anymore. Okay. One day, Billy Joe disappears. He disappears. And they were living together. Apartment cleaned out. He took everything. And he didn't leave a note, no nothing. She understood that he up and left her cold. He took advantage of her. She was heartbroken. I gave him my everything. I gave him my heart. He promised to marry me, probably build a big mansion. She wanted to slit her wrist. That's it. Her whole life was finished. I got to go back serving beer in the tavern. Well, she went back in the tavern. And the guy that owns the tavern is a guy by the name of Billy Weiss. Billy Weiss, a southern Jew, owns a tavern. Oh, Jew, but Billy Weiss, it's his friend Amuna. Billy Weiss has a friend in Memphis, Tennessee, right over the Tennessee-Alabama border. And his friend in Memphis, Tennessee, came and heard our lecture in Memphis, Tennessee, and he bought a couple of copies of the Garden of Amuna, and he says, hey, this is something that my friend Billy in Alabama probably never saw. So he sent him in an envelope to his birthday. Hey, Billy, I got this book. Happy birthday. I want you to read it. And this is really neat. I didn't know this either. Okay, so he comes and he read this book. So Emily Lou comes to work, and she's crying. She says, I can't say what happened. He told her what happened. And she says, I don't know. I thought I wouldn't come to work. I can't keep on going. I can't keep on going. I can't go back to doing this. He says, Billy, you're a nice boss, but you sure ain't no white mansion on a hill. He left, and she's crying. He says to her, listen, Emily Lou, I got this book here. My friend sent me from Memphis. I want you to read this book. I want you to read this book. And this is going to console you. So she takes home the book and she reads it. And she reads the first chapter, that everything comes from God. First chapter in Word. And it's a nice pie in the sky idea. And talks about this wise man called Maimonides that lived in Spain in the 11th century. And he wrote these 13 principles. And the first principle is everything comes from God. And she's getting an education, but it ain't making her feel any better. Now she goes over to the second chapter. And she reads this story about what the Jews call